Decamillionaire Decoded. That's what we're here to do. We're here to determine what exactly does it take to reach this status. So many of you are business owners and you're in the fire, you're in the fray, you're battling the enemy, you're trying to reach that vision, you're trying to conquer it, and it is exhausting. But until you've accomplished that mountain, until you've slain the dragon, so to speak, it often can feel like, man, there's just no way. Let me tell you, there is a way. It is going to come with perseverance, with tenacity, and by listening to those who've already achieved where you want to go. And today's guest, she's been there, she's done that, she's slayed the dragon, she's had fun. She built a business in a particular industry that is extremely competitive. So with that, my guest today is Miss Monica Garcia Dougal. Miss Monica, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. And I hope to give your audience a great conversation today with you. I've listened to a whole bunch of your podcasts and they're amazing. So thank you, Justin.
No, thank you for saying that. We're going to have a fun time today. Just two business owners, just talking about the life and the experiences we had. And obviously, we both have had amazing journeys. We've been blessed. But for the audience, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you've come from, successes, various things of that nature, so we have a frame to which to build upon.
Okay. So just to be clear, I was born into entrepreneurship. My mom was an entrepreneur. All her friends were entrepreneurs. So I thought, okay, that's what people do. Everybody's an entrepreneur. Like, no idea. That was like my mindset. And then I wanted to go to law school, ended up in investment banking. And I'm like, why am I in investment banking? Anyway, I fell in love with finance. So then I just started to do finance. But I met my husband, also an entrepreneur. And so we started a company. So we actually held our company for 16 years. And then we had a really great exit. The company for us, it did take a while to sell it. And we did try to sell it just in 3 years before we actually sold it. And we actually had to do some like rebranding and create systems where we pulled ourselves out of being connected with the company. Otherwise, nobody was interested in us. So we did invest in a consultant to come in and help us with all the systems and rebrand and pretty much pull all the owners away from the company so the company could run on its own. And we had a really great exit, an amazing exit. And I'll tell you what, I do executive classes at the business schools. And that really helped with the deal making, to see other founders that have sold and, some of the challenges that they had. And so we used those strategies when we were trying to sell our business, and they worked really well. And it's interesting with buyers when they're trying to buy your company, because some of them, they get very, what would I say? They have a lot of tricks. I could just say that.
Yeah, I personally have started and sold 7 companies. And in fact, my first book called The Ultimate Sale, one of my most read chapters in there is called The Retake. And you say tricks, you know this in the investment banking world, the retake or the retrade, depending on which part of the country you're from. It's interesting to see the tricks that can happen during an exit. But I'm intrigued as you were talking about decentralizing yourselves 3 years before. So if I heard you correctly, y'all went out to sell the company, and then it took 3 years to decentralize or remove you guys, the owners, from the epicenter of the business. And then once that was done, you were able then to move forward through the sale. Did I hear that correctly?
That's exactly correct. Because we tried to sell it 3 years before that. And there weren't any takers because it's like we pretty much had to stay with the company, and that just, how do you sell it when you're sticking with the company? It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell business owners that you can double or triple the value of your company in as little as 18 months. 36 months at the long point. And that's what you guys were dealing with, is that you had probably had a valuation that just wasn't palatable for you at that point. But through decentralization in that 3 years, you were able to reposition everything, get the right systems in place, as you said. And now you're able to go through the exit. So I guess I'm curious, what did it feel like in that first moment whenever y'all went to go to exit and you couldn't or you wouldn't because of the price point, and you now said, I got to go back to the drawing board, decentralize ourselves, and then roll up our sleeves and go hard at work for another 3 years? How did that mind and the feelings during that time come about?
That's a really great question because I don't think we were like, I know sometimes people build businesses to exit, like, okay, I want to exit in 3 years. So that's it. That's the whole mindset. So I think for us, it was more like, we had our kids are now teenagers. So, it was just all of like the founders were kind of parents. So we were okay kind of hanging out. We were making really great money. So we were making great money. We were able to do the family stuff with even the other like owners and the employees. So I think that framework is a little bit different. I'd say today, starting a business, it's probably to just, 1 to 3 years exit. So like you, right? You've done it 7 times. So I think that's the mindset now. So I think there's different levels for founders and, it's just whatever it is that they want, right? But I know listening to you as well, like you have that conversation with people, like what exactly is it you want, right? Are you truly committed? Like if you really want to sell in a year to 3 years and have the amount of money that you want to sell for during your exit. So I think all those conversations are very important. And so I'll tell you what, we actually, even when we were going to sell, like we were ready to walk if we weren't getting the price that we wanted. Like we were ready to continue to grow the business because it was doing really well. And if we were going to grow, I mean, we literally could have 10x'd it. And that's quite a bit of money. So that was our strategy that we used.
What led you to ultimately selling the company? Was it a desire to do something different? Was it a different track that you wanted to run on as a family? What was the reason?
Just the idea that, okay, now we're going to sell. Because all of the business owners had other businesses before, right? And they were all smaller scale. So this was a bigger event for us. So it would have definitely put us in a different financial situation. So I think that was exciting to us. And I think that's where we're like, hey, right, we've already done this. We could go build something else.
So if we go back to the early days, you said you were raised as an entrepreneur family. My mom and dad raised me to be an entrepreneur, a business owner. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I don't know anything different. I know how to grow businesses and it's fun for me, but not everybody does. Not everybody had the upbringing perhaps that you had or I had. And so we've got business owners that are now trying to strive to reach perhaps a level of success that you've experienced. And they're facing resistance from some avenue. Maybe it's employee resistance. Maybe it's market compression. Maybe it's the economy, depending on what market segment they're in. Whenever you dealt with that in your particular company or companies in the past, what was your mindset during that time period to help you persevere through that resistance and break through to ultimately what you were able to achieve?
Yeah, I think, Justin, for example, your podcast is very, very important, especially since you do come from an entrepreneur upbringing, because I think that people that don't have that have to rely on you and they have to rely on me and they have to rely on the person that, I think in one of your podcast episodes, something about like you're burning the boats, right? Like, hey, you're going to do it or you're going to do it. Like there's no other way, right? And so that mindset, like that, even experience, right? Like that's worth a lot of money. So the reality of it is anybody can do it, but sometimes you do need a Justin or a Monica. But you really have to talk to these people and you really have to make the investment because you know what? It's completely possible. And that's how you get through it, right? You have to go to somebody that has done it, has that mindset, and they'll help you get through it.
It's interesting, early this morning at 8:30 Eastern time, I had my coach, who I've hired a very top-notch coach to help me in my companies now. And we were on the call for an hour and a half. And I'm a confident individual, just like you. I'm a high D personality. I'm a visionary, I'm results driven. I'm decisive. I'm all the things that you would describe yourself as. And even though I've been in business now for over 30 years and scaled and started multiple companies from 7, 8, 9 figures, it's like you never arrive. And I am working and reworking in a new area to speak more and to write more and to coach a little bit more. And I'm talking to my coaches and I had this mental block, Monica. And it was something that was so simple, but my brain couldn't get through it. And I'm pouring my heart into the coach and the coach leans back, almost like you could probably do with your consulting clients. She leans back and she crosses her arms. She goes, Okay, I see you're overthinking this. Come on, man. You need to make a confident decision. Exactly that. She goes, you need to make a confident decision right now.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued because one of the things that you and I were talking about, you were telling our team is that in your own businesses, you have been able to make confident decisions.
Exactly.
Specifically in business. So what allows you or someone like my coach is pouring in me just to make a confident decision? What allows us to make confident decisions?
Yeah. I think that's an amazing question. And I think it is that experience, right? So, for example, as a kid, my mom being an entrepreneur and all her friends, right? And, there's a business idea or right? So just looking at stuff like that, it's like a gift, okay? Everybody has their gift. So when somebody has a gift, sometimes they don't realize they have a gift, right? They're like, oh yeah, everybody can do that. But the reality is like, yeah, not everybody can do that, right? So those are like the conversations that people have to have with themselves. And so like maybe somebody is confident in something else because that's where their expertise are. So if somebody wants to be an entrepreneur and they want to be really successful, it's like you have to learn. Just start going, getting the information, and then just start building. And don't stop building. Keep going. I think that, that's where the confidence is like show up.
Absolutely. It's fun you say that because I often say that in our coaching clients. I'll say, yes, it's hard, but so was walking the first time. You didn't know how to do that. How many times you fought it? I don't remember. Well, so was driving the first time. I remember my 16-year-old getting behind the steering wheel by the first time, and they're scared to death. And now after driving for 30 years, I drive down the road and don't even realize what I'm doing because it's now I've mastered it, so to speak.
Exactly.
I love the framework around that. I'm intrigued. You created this method that you call the Financial Bites method.
That's
and
right.
It's your proprietary system that deals with budgeting, investing, taxes, exit, and SOP. I want to unpack that with you a little bit around what led you to develop the strategy. What is this system and how do you help business owners deploy that within their company? So let's maybe start off with how did you come about this proprietary system?
So because I've had 30 years worth of experience in finance, I was trying to just think of like, what are all the pieces of finance? Like seriously, if you think of finance, if you think of money, like what are the pieces? And so I had this board up and I just started writing a whole bunch of stuff like budget, investing, taxes, exit strategy, standard operating procedure, and debt. But I didn't put debt on there because it didn't fit within my acronym. So that's the extra one there. But that was pretty much it, right? And so the way I use it, you can use that in your personal finance, but the way I use it in business is I know like with your clients, right? You're like, come on, you want to get there, let's get you there, let's get you organized, right? But for some people, like let's say they're maybe moving a little slower and maybe they want to exit. They can start with like looking at their budget, right? For the company. They're investing, right? Do they have cash, taxes, right? And then after the taxes, then we have the exit strategy. Right. So I didn't really look at it this way, but if you really like start any of your companies or every year, if you run your company like you want to exit, you're going to have a very lean and powerful business, right? And then finally the exit strategy moves into the systems, which is your standard operating procedures. That's, you could leave your company. You could leave for a month, for 5 months, for 6 months. If you have good systems in place, you could pretty much, do really well. And that's another thing where you go get rested, come back with a new idea. Now you're bringing in more income, or you're making that decision to like, maybe if you have like 5 products, right? 2 of them, let's get rid of those. These 3 are amazing. Let's start like this next one. And that all helps you with your profit.
So with the business owners who are trying to scale, or perhaps those who experienced what you and your husband experienced, where you're ready to exit, but the business wasn't quite at the right price point you desire it to be at, which one of these 5 areas, the budgeting, the investing, the taxes, the exit strategy, the SOPs, which one of these 5 areas is often the weakest for business owners? And then why do you think that is?
Investing.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it this way. You're bringing $1 into your business, right? Real revenue. So when you bring that dollar, what is happening to that dollar, right? Sometimes we stop thinking about like, oh, okay, there's a book, Profit First. It's for smaller companies, but I think anybody can use it. So you do like your profit, your owner's pay, right? Then you do your taxes. And then finally, your operations. Sometimes with your operations, we stop looking at that, or we grow so quickly that's just like ballooned, right? And so where is all of our profit? So if we're looking at investing, then every time one of those dollars comes in, it's like, where is that going, right? Where is that going? Is that going to this or that? Also, the other thing is that's how you can also be proactive in terms of like staying relevant with your company, right? And then also, I love to use a SWOT analysis with investing, right? So that would be like your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. So if you're looking at your company holistically like that, investing, because also the other thing, Justin, if people want to retire, right? Like, oh, I want to sell this and I want to retire, or I want to sell this and I want to make enough money. Or so if you really think about it through the investing, you can not only think about it through your business, but you can also think about it after you've sold, right? And what do you do that with that after? Because reality, if you make a lot of money, you can actually put yourself in an amazing position, and then you can leverage some of that. You don't even have to leverage everything you got paid out. You can just maybe leverage like 5%, 10%. And that may be a lot of money. And then you can even go start something else or buy other stuff and just, take the income from that. So yeah. So I think investing.
So I want to nerd out for a second with you, and I want you I want you to coach me. I'm going to put myself very vulnerable here, Monica.
Okay.
And because whenever I think about investing, and this, let me tell you my framework and challenge me or tell me if I'm thinking wrong in this. And I'm putting myself in the mindset of I'm trying to take my company. Maybe I'm doing $1 million or $2 million in top line revenue. I'm trying to get this thing to where it's worth 10 million or more in value is where my brain's at this point. So if I'm thinking about investing as the business owner, I would work through a decision tree. I would say, okay, if I've got an extra dollar outside of, NOI, net operating income, I got an extra dollar, I can either take that out, put it in my own personal bank account, and then invest it, if you will, in some outside asset, or I can reinvest that money back in my company. So the very first decision I have is to withdraw it or reinvest it. My brain typically went to, I can reinvest it in the company and build my asset larger, build it faster because I can get a better return on my equity inside my company than I could traditionally outside in perhaps securities or real estate, because I know business. So this is the way I think. So once I redeploy that back into the company, now my investing mind is where can I get my largest ROI or return on investment within the company? And so as I'm looking through the SWOT analysis using your framework, the language, if I'm looking at the SWOT analysis, I may see where I need to reinvest that into a new employee this quarter, or the next month I need to reinvest into R&D, research and development, or I need to go to marketing. But as I'm tracking my reinvestment dollars, I'm looking for return on equity is what I'm going to be tracking to see if my dollars are actually yielding me the equity return, and comparing that to opportunity costs, maybe reinvesting outside, or cost of capital. So in the way I'm thinking about it as a business owner in that light, is that the same framework that you would coach somebody with your experience to think about it? Or is there a better way that I could think through this?
Yeah, that's amazing. I absolutely love that you're asking this question. I'll tell you why. Because each one of my bites, right, although they seem so straightforward, each one of them is actually extremely complex. So I love your question right now with the investing. So the way I look at investing, rather than like an extra dollar coming in, I look at just the dollar that's already there. So not an extra one. We're looking at what we already have, right? So because the dollars are already coming in. So the other,
you're looking at revenue as your dollars. You're just counting top line revenue.
Yeah. I'm like looking at your business as just a business. So I'm not looking at all. I'm not going into the weeds at all.
Okay,
I'm just looking at it. Okay, what is the cash flow here? What's coming in, right? First. The second thing, when we're talking about investing, it doesn't matter how your company is running already, Justin. I'm just seeing the money that's coming in. One. The second thing that I'm going to look at is what is your plan, right? Oh, I want 10 million. So the next thing then is let's go to 10 million. So we go to the 10 million and then we work backwards. And also the other part of that is I I want to look at like, what exactly is that 10 million? Is that 10 million in profit? Is that 10 million in real revenue? Like, how much are you going to be able to put in your bank account? Like, that's how I look at everything. How much am I actually going to be able to walk? I'm going to walk to the bank and I'm going to carry all this money with me and I'm going to put it in my bank account. Like, that's how I look at everything. All of the other pieces, they're extremely important. But if you start with this big picture framework first, then everything else will fall into place. Plus, the other thing is everything else needs to fit within your framework of 10 million, right? So let's say, well, okay, I actually want to have 10 million. Profit, cash. So then maybe I'm looking at, okay, well, I really need to hit 20 million because, I probably will have to pay all these taxes, right? So if you look at that, then now you can start looking at your dollar, right? That's coming in. So what is this dollar actually doing, right? Well, I'm paying here, I'm paying there. This product is bringing me this. This is bringing me this. So then you look at it all extremely holistically, right? You're looking at it. So you pull yourself out of your business and then you say, if I'm trying to help somebody get 20 million for this business, what is working? What is like work? What can we grow? Where can we put more money? And then where can we like maybe remove money? Or even employees, like these employees are doing this with this part, but that's not that exciting. And we can make a lot more money over here. So let's move these guys over here. Maybe, they're going to start doing this. That's going to pull in probably like, okay, over there was pulling in $1. Here it's going to pull in $5 or something of this sort. But I know I'm talking very vague because I don't have exact details, but the framework works nevertheless.
So you're speaking more around KPIs. You're measuring the KPIs like return on equity. You're doing hurdle rates. You're doing various KPIs that you would fund through the P&L or the income statement. Is how you're tracking your investing. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. So you're looking at it more like a CFO, right? So you're looking at it more just in like, okay, this is the cash that's coming in. So if you have your hat of the CFO, then you're going to look at it. What's the net asset value, right? For every one of my dollars. So here I have these 5 projects, right? These 5 projects. Well, this one looks pretty good. Well, that one looks amazing. But when you look at them, like you really have to then dig deep, right? This one may look like amazing, but it's actually costing you a lot more. So it's actually not that great, right? So if you do your due diligence and then just be very clear on what's actually really happening, it becomes very easy for you to hit your 20 million. It becomes really easy because at that point you have a game plan. And then it's clear for you to be able to explain that to your teams. And then everybody can work towards the same thing, right? And it's really not that complicated. It's just about allowing yourself to get to the 20 million and then work back. And the reality of it is everything happens a lot faster once you start having the clarity. The clarity is so, so important. The clarity and allowing yourself to say, all right, I want 10 million cash in my bank account. I'm going to ask for 20. Let's figure it out. I'm not saying it's easy, but the clarity really helps a lot.
What's interesting about what you just said is there's a framework that I teach, and friends, I'll give you behind the scenes on one of the coaching frameworks. And Monica, I think you'll follow around because this is simple to me, and everything you just said is simple to me. But I've been teaching it, and my coach had to tell me. And when I first heard what you said, I literally felt like a cow looking at a new gate. I had no idea what was happening in my life at that point. But now, whenever I get a business owner, Monica, and I'll say, "Look, let's run a pro forma. Let's just run something out." It says, "Okay, if you want $10 million in cash after you exit the company, that means depending on what state or what country you're in, you may need 20 million using your numbers in terms of total enterprise value. Okay, well, your total enterprise value right now is 2 million. We've got to gain 18 million. How are we going to gain 18 million? So we've been putting a forward projected pro forma in place. And then now that's forward looking. So it gets the business owner, the visionary mindset, the business owner to get from chasing the shiny squirrel and get their brain focused on exactly what needs to be done. Then the CFO mindset is dissecting every level of the business and coming back and calculating out these KPIs or these hurdle rates and looking specifically at what is your actual NAV on this particular structure within your company. Friends, that sounds daunting. Let me tell you, this is what a CFO does. And whenever I hired my outsourced CFOs to actually show me as the visionary what I'm trying to accomplish and then give me a quarterly report, Monica, it changed my life. It changed it to where now I was operating as if I'm driving a car across the country and I'm literally following the GPS. And if it does a detour, I can just simply detour and get back on track by moving in the ebb and flow of my company. So I'm intrigued as you're saying that. What is your advice to those business owners who heard the technical speak that we dove into real quick and that we got to come back out of? But what was that? Whenever they hear our technicality and they're like, okay, you just spoke over my head. What advice would you give to them to say, hey, look, this does work. Here's the first step you need to do in order to move in this direction to understand the true makeup financially of your company?
I'm listening to you, Justin, and you really get into the operations very detailed. So I do want to pull out a little bit because this is strategy, right? Yeah. So when we go into KPIs and when we go in like from the quadrant 1 to quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is like KPIs, like that's your hardcore everyday action. I have my CEO, board and I can see everything, right? So there's 2 other quadrants there that's where the magic happens in the other 2 quadrants. And so what I really want to say about that is one thing that you have to figure out is how to allow maybe something that is in your company to actually exponentially grow. And that is where it gets a little bit tricky. But that's where you really have to see, because if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same result, right? So you want to do some things different. So you have to figure out, like, even from a very intuitive level, kind of look at your products, like, and just really see what is working, what's doing well. Because I'll tell you what, and I tell this to everyone, there's stuff, Justin, that people want. And there's stuff that people will pay a lot of money for, right? There's these problems. And sometimes our clients are asking us for these things, but we're not really paying attention because we're paying attention to something else. And maybe something else that's not giving us all of that, right? But I don't want to deal with it, right? I'll have to change all of that. These are definitely some of the conversations that we have to have with ourselves, right? These are things that we have to do. So I think just to kind of be able to pull out to go to the really high level and just kind of take a look at it. All you're doing is you're just kind of coaching yourself and allowing yourself to actually grow to where you want to grow, right? And maybe sometimes it is to kind of just start getting into that state. Okay, I already have the 20 million, right? It's already walking in that area. And then kind of just maybe letting your mind find those products or find those opportunities that are already there. And the reality is once you start hitting those, you're going to be like, whoa, like, why didn't I do this before? There's this whole thing about people are afraid of failure. And I always say people are also afraid of success, right? And so that's what I say is just allow yourself to be successful. You want it. If you want it, it's already yours. Now just get a plan and go do it.
Yeah, you're going to achieve what you want one way or the other, and what you have is basically the sum total of your choices you made.
Exactly.
I agree with that 100%.
That's 100%. Yeah.
Let me ask you, you made a statement that I don't want to gloss over, and I want to hear your wisdom on this. You said I tried to get it word for word, so I may paraphrase here. You said you needed to get out and examine. You need to get out of the company and examine what's working. So let's get practical. A business owner who's already spinning so many plates, how do they get out to examine? Yeah. What would you tell them in order to do that?
I think that just for owners, like, be okay not being okay, right? When you have to make these hard decisions, say, this sucks, I don't want to do this, but just do it. Just go into it. Go get it done. If you have to look at these things, and there's a lot of talented people out there, if you're clear and you really want to do it, then go ahead and do it. And it is going to be hard. But guess what? At the other side, it's going to be what you want it. It's going to be what you want it.
Well said. So, Monica, I know that you specialize in helping business owners from about 10 million to 200 million scale rapidly. I know that's your specialty. And so a lot of our audience falls just beneath that. So I'm interested in this last question for you is, as you look at the wealth of knowledge, your experiences, the people that you have the privilege to serve and that you have to consult, as well as the successes that you and your family has had throughout your life, what is that one pearl of wisdom? That one pearl of wisdom that you would speak and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner out here, I see where you're at. You can't achieve your goals, but what's that pearl of wisdom that you would leave them with today?
If you want it, it's already yours. Like you wouldn't want it if it wasn't already yours. Somebody told me that a long time ago. And, it's hard to allow yourself. But think about it. Doesn't that kind of make sense? If you want it, like you already saw it. So you're not going to see things that it's just like you can't make it happen. You can make it happen. I think that's the biggest thing is if you feel it, you want it, it's yours. And then also investing, if I could go back to that, Justin, invest in yourself, right? Take classes, go to workshops, hire Justin, like these things are really, really, really important and they really make a difference. So if you're like on the fence, like, well, do I want to invest? You have to. Like, that's how you get to where you need to go. You have to invest.
Well said. Well said. So for the audience who may be intrigued and follow-up questions, et cetera, where's the best way for them to connect with you?
I'm on www.monicagarciadougal.com. Okay. And I also have another company, www.infinity1.com.
So friends, click the links below in the show notes so you can see all about Monica through her websites or her social media profile. So Monica, thank you so much for coming today on the show and sharing your wisdom with our audience.
I really appreciate you inviting me. Thank you so much, Justin. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Your wisdom is phenomenal. See, friends, this running a business thing, you never arrive. I mean, I'm like at the very beginning having fun, trying to figure out how in the world do you radically scale a speaking company and a coaching company? I've never done that before. So I'm literally walking the same path that you are right now. But I can tell you this, if you're running a service-based industry, as Monica just said, if you want it, define the it. Get clear on the it. If you want it, I love it. It's already yours. You're going to face some resistance. You're going to face some headwinds. You're going to face some trials. It doesn't mean that you don't pursue the it with all the tenacity and all the vim and vigor that you have within your person. Look, man, though your wildest dreams are on the opposite side of the headwinds of resistance you're fixing to face or you're already facing. Don't quit. If a country boy born and raised on a dirt road in South Georgia who chased alligators growing up can have his wildest dreams come true, and if Monica, being raised in an entrepreneur family, can have her wildest dreams come true, then you can too. So don't give up. So until next time, friends, y'all go out and make it a great day. We'll talk to you then.